And welcome back to my cozy corner of the internet. I'm Mayastar, and today we have another unscripted video. On this unscripted video, we're going to be talking about the latest Mayastar updates, the Negative Entities Clearing Reiki course, Lemurian and Starseed energies, and answering some of your questions regarding energy healing, the violet flame, energy protection, and spiritual awakening. If this sounds interesting to you, stick around and spend the next half an hour with me while we meander around the topic and pursue the scenic route to enlightenment. On this channel, I share 3 videos every week. One of them is an unscripted video like this. On Mondays, an energy update video goes out with daily law of attraction affirmations for your week ahead. And on Wednesdays, I share a video with one of my latest channeled compositions, a light language meditation that you can use to enhance your energy healing practice and your spiritual development work. If you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe, ring the notification bell so you get updates every time I upload a new video, and share this page with your friends or through your social media. And if you're a regular viewer, welcome back, and I hope you've had another fantastic week. So let's start off today talking about the latest meditation track that I'm currently working on at the time of recording. This new meditation track is an energy that's about increasing the flow of life force throughout your system. So that involves activating each of the star centers. The star centers correspond with the 7 main chakras, and add the soul star chakra, which is above your head, and the earth star chakra, which is below your feet and anchors you to the earth. And the energies that are coming through for these transmissions are aligned with the Pleiadian light beings, who are connected with the Lemurian light beings. That might sound a bit strange, but originally when the Lemurians came to the planet, they came from the Pleiadian star system, and their concern was our spiritual development as well as our development as a race of beings that were intended to evolve to a higher state in the same way that other beings around the universe do. So the Pleiadians are there to support us in the progress of the planet as a whole and of the human race specifically. And originally this work was carried out from the continent of Lemuria, and where the Pleiadians originally came to the planet, they weren't always in a physical incarnation. They operated primarily as energy beings because, as I say, they were more concerned with our spiritual aspects than our physical aspects, although these two became mingled over time as the Lemurians worked increasingly at lower vibrations in order to manifest those high frequency energies in ways that were accessible to a biological organism like us. And this work meant that the Pleiadians also had to adjust their energy frequency regularly, change their levels of consciousness and where their focus would be on the planet or back with their star tribe on their home planet, so to speak. So when we connect with the Pleiadians, that allows us to take on those high frequency energies that come to us from the star people, and the Lemurians are almost like earth guardians. You could almost think of them as being something like the elemental beings the fairies. They're very protective and they are very much like us. And when you connect with them, that's what you tend to experience. A light being that has a very human quality, much more than, say, when you're connecting with angels, they can seem quite alien. And to some people, the Pleiadians can also seem very alien. But if you work regularly with the Lemurian beings, you will find that you can connect more powerfully with the Pleiadian light beings as you become accustomed to that kind of energy. And the Lemurians are excellent for helping you to do exactly that. And because they're still present on the earth continuously, there is a strong connection. We have a shared ancestry on an energetic level that keeps us tightly bonded with the Lemurian light beings. And at the moment, I'm working a lot with the Lemurians as part of my channeling work for my meditation tracks. So this one that I've been working on this week, it's about progressing the ascension journey by grounding higher frequency energies as much as is possible with the star centers activated and in balance. Now, over time, as people regularly attend to their spiritual development practices and energy healing work, their capacity for tapping into those high frequency energies is increased. But at certain points, it's important to consolidate that energy. And when these rituals are indicated by Spirit for me to make available to people, that's usually because there's going to be an acceleration in the process. And certainly there's a strong feeling that 2024 will be a period of acceleration for those that choose to tap into those frequencies. But it is a conscious choice. You don't have to pursue these energy currents. You don't have to harness them as part of your own development. You can perfectly well progress your path by staying in your own lane. But if you feel connected to the Pleiadians and the Lemurians, when the meditation goes live, that's going to be something you can use, and it will express the energies of the current celestial opportunities that are made available to us through the Pleiadians and Lemurians, and the Lemurian Council of Light transmit them to those that are ready to receive the energetic upgrades, and they do that through me and through my channeling work. And now that's covered, that moves us on to one of the interesting questions I received this past week, and it was left on one of the live streams, the overnight live streams, where one of the meditation tracks is streamed overnight so that it can be used for background music for your sleep and while you're studying or working. And this question was, is your name a combination of May and Ashtar? Well, no, it isn't. Mayastar was a name that was originally channeled when I set up Mayastar Academy in 2004. For me at the time, it related to the ocean goddess, who I now know as Amara, but at the time I worked with predominantly in the form of Mary, and variations on Mary's name include the name Maya and the goddess Yemaya, who is an ocean-centric great mother goddess for the African people. In addition, Maya is also the name of the mother of the Buddha, and is the name of one of the stars that makes up the Pleiadian constellation, and the star Maya is in the constellation of Taurus, which is associated with the tarot card of the Hierophant, and that is also a card that I work with often when I'm teaching, because through Mayastar, my main work is to teach energy healing and spiritual development courses. If you'd like to know more about my name and the meaning behind it, you can actually find an article on the Mayastar website at mayastar.net where I go into the details of where the name Mayastar originally came from. Now, Mayastar was the name that I was going by back in 2004, and it's the name that I use on my business and for my music and my channelings. When working with deities and in personal rituals, I go by a different name. But I think perhaps because I started my work mostly in occult circles and within a traditional coven, I do have a bit of a funny thing about names. So the names that I use, the names that are published, are not the names that I use within the temple, but they do have a similar resonance. They do have similarities in frequency, similarities in meaning, and so for me they are perfectly tied together, in which case I consider Mayastar to be an aspect, an outward aspect of my spiritual expression, just like you would with any other name, I suppose, where it's used mostly for convenience, but it's not entirely necessary. But it creates an energetic anchor. Energetically, you can tie things together, and it can help you to ground that energy. But you know, when you're working with light beings, they will often communicate different names to you at different times, and your own name can go through a bit of an evolution as your spiritual aspects are expressed, because names actually carry their own frequency. And so that's why when you think about the ancient medieval magicians and the practices they would use, tricking demons into giving them their real names so they could exert influence over them and that kind of thing. So names have always been known to be very important, and even in Hindu tradition, names are credited as having unique vibrations, and the name of a sacred being is therefore considered part of that being. And by using the name as a mantra, you bring that energy closer to you, meaning that you can connect with a deity simply by chanting its name, or variations on its name, or some of the seed sounds that make up the name. And for those who don't know who Ashtar is considered in the capacity of a sort of ascended master being, but as an extraterrestrial, often connected with Pleiadians, although not originating from the Pleiades himself. He is credited as being able to give us guidance on how our spiritual evolution as a species is going and that kind of thing. He's sort of like an overseer. And while I work with a number of extraterrestrial guides, Ashtar isn't currently one of them. And the ones that I do work with are Pleiadian. Because of the connection with the Lemurians, that's always been the way that I've been most connected to the star people, through the Pleiadians. And now let's move on to some of your questions. I had quite an interesting one here. I don't want to mess it up by not expressing this question properly, so I may read this one out, okay? I've been working with the violet flame for years, but recently I've noticed that sometimes the energy comes through as gold rather than violet. Do I need to be attuned again? And I thought this was very interesting, because this is an experience that quite a few people have with the violet flame, that sometimes the energy comes through gold or with flecks of gold within the violet flame energy. And it's not unusual, and it's perfectly okay. You don't need to be reattuned to it, and it may just be that at the time that is the frequency of energy that you needed to connect with. And the way I see it is if you think of how a normal fire looks, a normal flame, you have a mixture of colours depending on where the heat is, where it's most intense. So you can get bits that look bright yellow, bits that look almost white, and bits that look orange or red. But it's all part of the same fire, it's all part of the same energy. And this phenomenon occurring with violet flame energy, I see it in a similar way. When you think of the violet flame, allow it to have some variation. It's not all one uniform colour. So it can be that parts of it are more intense, parts of it have different colours reflected, and gold is one of those colours that is reflected within the violet flame. So it doesn't mean there's something wrong with the energy. It doesn't mean that it's becoming diluted over time or anything, or that you need to be reattuned. Although you can be reattuned. If you want to be reattuned to a system, that's perfectly okay. But it's usually more to do with sending the message to your conscious mind that you've been reattuned, so that your conscious mind can then realign with your unconscious mind and allow that energy to flow without so many doubts or worries or anything like that. The only time I think that's really important is if you haven't worked with the energy for a long time. So when you go to work with it again, you find yourself feeling a little bit doubtful because you're not used to the frequency and you're not sure if you're doing it right. And in those circumstances, being reattuned to the energy can resolve those energetic blocks, your resistance to that energy, and allow the flow to continue properly. So although it's not exactly necessary on an energetic level, it's not necessary. Psychologically, I think it can be very helpful for some people at certain times. And I've also had some people who like to be reattuned to a particular system on a semi-regular basis because they find the attunement so healing. And that it seems to be especially the case for the violet flame and Kundalini Reiki, for no obvious reason other than that I suppose perhaps they are energies that people go back to over and over again over time because they are so versatile. So yeah, you don't need to be reattuned, but there isn't anything stopping you from being reattuned if you feel that it's necessary. But seeing gold within the violet flame is nothing to be concerned about. And the final question was from somebody who moved into a new flat a while ago, but within the last year. And they say that they feel there could be something energetically wrong with the place because they're experiencing mood changes, bad dreams and insomnia, and suffering with headaches. And although they've not experienced anything paranormal within the property, they are concerned that there could be something going on in the place that they need to sort out. Now, I've got a few things I would say about that. First of all, do make sure that there's nothing in the environment that's causing it. In case have you got new carpets that have been treated with chemicals and that sort of thing, causing headaches and insomnia? I think that's not very uncommon. If you've got new furniture, sometimes it can be giving off chemicals, and if you're a sensitive person, that could affect you. And other toxins in the environment, like any sort of mold or fire retardant chemicals on sofas, things like that, to look out for. But assuming it isn't anything like that, and it's nothing in a practical sense, like now you've moved house, you have to travel an extra 20 minutes to get to work, making your day that little bit longer, making you feel a little bit more burnt out. I mean, those sorts of things obviously can happen when somebody moves house. And there's also the stress of the move that can create problems. It can take you quite a while to adjust, not just on an energetic level, but emotionally as well. Moving house is a big deal. So give yourself some time for a start. I mean, don't beat yourself up if you're just you're struggling because a lot of things have changed in a short period of time. But at the same time, even if there are practical or physical causes for any of the issues you're currently facing, I do think that cleansing a property, mindfully using energy work to clear the energy of a home and maintain it, can help you to create more of a healthy environment for yourself, an energetically healthy environment. Because when it's set up properly, your home can act almost as a battery. It contains the energy that you fill it with. And if you fill it with positive energy that aligns with your intentions and your purpose, then whenever you return to your home, the space recharges you. And that's the ideal environment for you to live in. And it might be that just because you've moved into a new property, you don't have the same bond with the location and you're not filling it with energy the same way as you did in the old property, where you were more used to it and you were more used to the energy and you felt more established. So moving house, deliberately creating a ritual that will help you to tie energy within the home that you feel most comfortable with, is a good thing to do. Now, if I were to recommend an energy healing modality for doing that, there are a few, and it would really depend on what sort of ritual you were most comfortable with. The elemental pentagram and magic circle empowerments would be good. The violet flame would be good. That's a simple one to use. I find that one a useful one to use at night before going to sleep. So if you're struggling with sleep, that might be a good routine to get into. Also, if you're struggling with sleep, the center of stillness or the light sanctuary activation, those might be good options to create more of a loving energy within the home. Perhaps Kuan Yin's compassionate heart. Ethereal crystals healing you could use to create an ethereal crystals grid within the property to hold on to that energy and create sort of home battery for your energy to keep everything the way that you like it within your home. That might be a good idea. And this week's special offer is for the Negative Entities Clearing Reiki course. That would also be a good option for just clearing away negative energy. Perhaps you're feeling more the residual energy of the previous occupier or occupiers, and so using a system that will cleanse away those connections and associations might help you to feel more energetically established where you are. So yeah, negative entities clearing Reiki can also be used to clear attachments to a property. As you've not experienced any paranormal activity, I think it's unlikely that there are attachments in the property. And even when there are attachments to a property, it's usually that they're residual, or they're elemental beings that have just sort of got tied up in the place. And by clearing the energy and getting things flowing, those issues resolve themselves naturally. It's nothing to worry about. These things come and go. It's not a demon. It's not something trying to attack you or take over your life. But it's certainly a situation you can do something about, and attending to your energetic well-being within the home is a sacred thing to do. Your home is a sacred space, so I think it's important to make some time for it and put some energy into it. And if you do it right, then your home supports your health, your healing journey, and your spiritual development. It becomes a sacred space where you can relax and feel supported by your own energy. So yeah, if you set it up right, your home can be vital in your healing practice. And the final question this week is from somebody who has just started taking the Wheel of Light Starseed activations courses through Mayastar, which you can find on the Starseed Energies course category menu. And these are single attunement courses that all have their unique meditations to accompany them for activating the energy and working with it. And each of the courses, each of the attunements also includes a light language mantra, which has been channeled through the Lemurian goddess Amara as part of it. So if you want to develop a skill in working with light language, specifically Lemurian light language, these courses are a good way to get started, and that was why they started taking the courses, and they're enjoying them very much. But they also wanted to know, how can they bring Lemurian energy into their daily lives in a practical way, not just using the mantras which they're using in the mornings, but how can they deepen their connection with the Lemurian light beings through their daily rituals. And my recommendation was to mindfully bring in the Lemurians whenever you're doing something creative, because creativity is a big part of the Lemurian culture. When I connect with the Lemurians, what I particularly notice is that they're far more centered around dreams, imagination, creativity, the arts, and intuitive pursuits. I mean, they are magical beings, so they are. You can connect with them through any sort of magical practice as well, but I see magical practice as being part of your creative expression. And for me, connecting with the Lemurians, usually it's through light language mantras and through creating music, but I feel that they are powerfully present whenever you're doing something creative or using your imagination in any way. You're creating space for that magic to come through. So I think if you just make a simple practice of when you notice that you're using your creativity in some way, of addressing the Lemurians and asking them to inspire you, it gives you a way to connect with them throughout the day without a formal ritual, and to get used to their presence and the kind of support that they can give to you. And as you're already using light language as your morning spiritual practice, the light language mantras, I think that's a good start to the day, because it starts you off mindfully connecting with the Lemurians first thing. So that makes it more likely that you'll connect with them later in the day, perhaps throughout the day, by bringing your mindset back to your morning meditation perhaps, or just repeating the mantra a few times to yourself, reminding yourself of their presence and their continued support. But I do think it's best if you want to work with an energy being, it becomes much more powerful when you put it into something practical. If you want to connect with the Lemurians, like for me, creating music means I'm taking some sort of action. The inspiration that comes to me, the energy that comes to me is translated through me into this world through some different medium, through some instrument, through my voice, through a mantra that's been received and channeled, and that kind of thing. And I could just as easily be painting or creating art of some kind and still expressing that energy, bringing it. I feel that this is the thing that the Lemurians are the strongest on, bringing through those high frequency energies into the physical world and expressing them in a unique way, because that's what the Lemurians were here for in the beginning. They were here to allow us to evolve as biological beings that are carrying, housing, and expressing the inspiration and promptings of a soul. So if you think of it like that, when you're looking for ways to connect with the Lemurians, think of how are you expressing your soul in that particular moment, and is there something you can do to make it a little bit more authentic and meaningful to you? I mean, you can't with every single activity. Don't try to do this like every time you go to get yourself a cup of coffee from Starbucks. How can I make this creative? Perhaps if I pour the sugar into the shape of one of these symbols. Well, I suppose you could, but you don't have to be obsessive about it. But like, perhaps when you're doodling, perhaps you work in an office and you sit there doodling on your notebook while you're on the phone and things like that. Well, you might notice that when you're doodling, you might recognize that this is actually an opportunity to express a bit of creativity, and you might then think of the Lemurians and doodle something that is a little bit more meaningful, makes you smile. Perhaps you feel it makes them smile, and that kind of thing. Setting a trigger for yourself is a good way to make a ritual, something that you do regularly. So, you get out of bed every day. That's a good place to start your spiritual practice. You go to bed every night. So that's another good point for your spiritual practice. And it's anything that you do consistently. You can easily build a ritual around it, build onto it, so that things gradually become more aligned with your intentions. But you don't want to end up so tied up with rituals that there's no room for you to actually live your life. Rituals are to bring in extra meaning. They're not to replace the meaning in a life that's not making you happy. That's not something that rituals can do, but they're to enrich your life that should hopefully already be enriching you in some way. And I don't want to sound too obvious, but I find working with crystals helps me to connect more deeply with the Lemurian energy. But again, I see this as being the connection to the earth. And working with crystals, I find very grounding. Even the highest frequency crystals, just to have the physical crystals present can be a powerful message to your mind that you're on a physical planet, and the energy here is represented in different ways to the way it is in your mind. And actually having something to hold that is sacred and connected to the earth can help you to connect with those Lemurian energies. I often see it that the Earth Star chakra that's beneath your feet and connects you to the planet is also connecting you to the Lemurian light beings that are present on the planet and supporting you in your development. It's your connection to the planet that is the bond that connects you with those Lemurian beings. And with the Pleiadians, I see it as the soul star chakra that connects you with those energies. But the Pleiadians and Lemurians are linked. The Lemurians were originally Pleiadian light beings, and so they share a common ancestry. They share a common purpose. They just operate on different dimensions, and you need to operate on different dimensions as well. If you neglect your physical body and your life on the planet and the things that you do here because you don't think they're as important as your spiritual practices, then you're missing something very important, because what you do here is your spiritual practice, and what you do here is sacred. The planet is sacred, and your life is sacred, and the lives of everybody that you come into contact with are also sacred. So don't be wishing away your 3D reality, because it's an essential part of the spiritual opportunities you have, and it's part of your spiritual progress and evolution as a light being. And I think that's everything I wanted to cover for today. If you think I've missed anything, or if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments or on one of the videos, or email me through mayastar.net, and I'll be sure to get to your questions on the next Unscripted. But for today, that's the end of our little session, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a great week, and I hope you're about to have another one. And I hope you'll stay tuned to this channel and come back here next week for some more mystical meanderings with me. But in the meantime, I wish you peace, prosperity, and progress in all you do. With blessings.